Welcome to Golden Blue, everybody, home of the college football fan. And don't forget about the checklist. Hat check, sunglasses check, Pepsi check, notes check, sources check, and thick skin is a check. And don't forget to sing gear to represent your team and yourself in my background. Send it to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina, 29657, and get yourself a shout out. On to the next video. Hey, you already know what time it is, so might as well sit down, brace yourself, and buckle up because you are entering the speculation zone. You know, they say there's always two sides to every story. And ever since the Utah athletic director tweeted that 4-word tweet, "Give me a break," in response to Dennis Dodd's tweet of Big 12 readies to pounce on four corner schools as doubt creeps in about Pac-12's viability. Well, a lot of people took the tweet of "Give me a break" from the Utah athletic director as the Utah athletic director saying, it's not going to happen. Greg Henson tweeted this: "The only true and reliable source yet to surface on the Pac-12's future, Utah Athletics Director Mark Harlon needs just 4 words to disarm the Arizona, not Utah, Arizona to Big 12 narrative." So a lot of people are taking that 4-word tweet, "Give me a break," and saying, see, that proves that the Pac-12 is fine. We have a TV deal. Utah Athletic Director says, "Give me a break." So that means the Pac-12 is going to survive this and maybe even get a better TV deal than the Big 12. Okay, no, they're not going to get a better TV deal than the Big 12. That is not happening at all. Right now, we're just trying to figure out if they're going to get a TV deal at all. Period. In case you're wondering, these are the teams that we don't have represented for the mini helmets. As you can see, we actually have quite a few big brands that's not represented here at Golden Blue. So get your team represented here on Golden Blue. So now the other side of this story is people reacting to that. Not reacting to the tweet itself, but reacting to the reactions to the tweet. This was from Outkick. Starts with, "Give you a break. It appears that's exactly what the Big 12 is trying to do." Heartland College Sports' Brian Clinton, the nose in the air attitude that several Pac-12 university officials have exhibited through this entire media rights process has been eye-opening for folks around the rest of the country. Somehow we're supposed to believe that claims that everything is just fine in the Pac-12 and that there's no possibility whatsoever that the best viable option for the remaining Pac-12 schools is to leave while they have a chance. Either Harlan is posturing or his head is so far in the sand that he don't see what is going on around him. I don't think he's got his head buried in the sand. I think it's plausible deniability, and I did a video on that. I think he's removing himself from the situation. That way, whatever happens, he's like, I didn't know anything about it. Yes, I am going to read once again the article from Deseret News. "University presidents and athletic directors have long utilized a third party in negotiations when hiring personnel and coaches or when making changes in college expansion. That way they could say truly that they have had no personal contact, conversations, or talks with the coach, team, or league, but their representatives may have. Plausible deniability." Outkick's David Hookstead wrote, "What we do know is someone isn't telling the truth. Either multiple Pac-12 teams are in talks with the Big 12 or they're not. It's truly that simple. Who is telling the truth? Who is lying? That remains to be seen, but there are simply too many dueling narratives. Harlan will definitely want to smash the delete button if the Utes do ultimately make a run for it. This tweet will certainly haunt him." I disagree with that because of what I said. He could use that as plausible deniability. That way, no matter what happens, he could say, see, I had no idea. My hands are tied. Or my hands are clean of the situation. CBS wrote a report that says, CBS, Pac-12 demise just weeks away. CBS report, Pac-12's demise could be just weeks away. And I gave y'all the timeline. So the Big Ten is waiting on getting a new commissioner before they make any moves. And that's not to say that Kevin Warren was keeping them from making a move of getting Oregon and Washington. In fact, Kevin Warren wanted Washington and Oregon, but they want to get their ducks in a row, no pun intended, before they go out and try to get Oregon and Washington. They want to make sure they have their new Big Ten commissioner and all that settled. So April is the month to look at as far as the Big Ten making a move trying to get Oregon and Washington. Now for the Big 12, I've said this before, they're going to wait till after the big dance because they had a great football season, but the Big 12 always shines in the big dance. Remember, they've won back-to-back national championships in college basketball. So they don't want to take any shine off the big dance. They're going to wait till that is done and over with. Then we're going to start hearing announcements if teams are talking to the Big 12. And you know, I got to mention our favorite college football conspiracy theorist, MacGyver. Here's what he had to say yesterday. "On this election Sunday, I have one morsel to share. I've just been told Fox will play ball with the Big 12 for Parada for 2 all-sports editions. Fox wants Arizona and Colorado. But what we're hearing from our favorite college football conspiracy theorist is that Fox wants Colorado and Arizona. No mention of Utah. So could that be part of the problem? could Utah know that teams are about to jump for the Big 12 and that they're not on the menu as of right now? Maybe in the future, but not as of right now. But at the same time, if the Big 12 were to go after Utah, they wouldn't be gaining a footprint in a new state. And Brett Yormark has been very vocal about getting new time zones and new state footprints. And maybe that's what Fox is thinking as well. Arizona and Colorado, those are two new states that you'd have a footprint in. Yes, if you bring in Utah, that's a great brand and you're locking in the Holy War, but it doesn't give you a footprint in a new state. This could be bad news for Utah. The biggest question is, will those teams actually jump to the Big 12? We're not questioning if they're talking to the Big 12. That's happening. The question is, will they jump to the Big 12? And of course, this will be a Get It Gang video. If you don't know what the Get It Gang is, it's basically a name that I came up with for the group of people that leave video ideas in the comment section of my videos. So if you think that you have a good video idea, leave it in the comment section and I just might use it on my next video. So the first one is from Mountaineer News 2. He says, here's a Get It Gang video. Don't worry, I'm still Mountaineers too. I just changed the picture temporarily. Let's say theoretically with the whole Utah mess is that Utah is lying. That's possible about staying in the Pac-12 when in reality they're going to leave. And let's say that this is going to happen for every member so they don't make the commissioner panic to add new members or teams. To make sure the conference dies, think about it. It could be possible. They could be putting up a front for George Kliavkoff because the man that you need to hear from is George Kliavkoff. This is the guy that's in the biggest trouble because he didn't try to get a TV deal as soon as possible. Brett Yormark jumped the line for the Big 12, secured a TV deal, not the best TV deal in the world, but a decent TV deal, and it's keeping the Big 12 together. Meanwhile, George Kliavkoff thought that the Pac-12 was going to be as valuable as the Big 10 or the SEC, and he opened up bidding, and that has absolutely backfired on him. So you could be absolutely right. They could be just trying to hide stuff from George Kliavkoff until they make the actual move. The next Get It Gang video idea is from Mr. Tinfoil Man Live. It's the Get It Gang guy. Once again, here's something to think on. If the Pac-12 wasn't anti-religious on schools, they could have not only gotten BYU, but also TCU. That is a great point. It would have been 14 teams before the USC, UCLA moved to the Big 10, and they would have been just fine at 12 for the TV deal. Any thoughts on that one? 100% agree. So if they would have brought in BYU and TCU, number one, your numbers would be fine right now. Number two, you wouldn't be looking for a group of 5 teams. And finally, the third point on that is the Big 12 wouldn't have BYU or TCU. So that's a triple whammy if the Pac-12 would have gotten over their religious disdainment and brought in BYU and TCU. Those are great brands. That would have helped the Pac-12. And that would have given you a solid footprint in the state of Texas instead of trying to settle for an SMU or a Rice. I mean, TCU is a much, much better school than SMU and Rice, and it would have given you a solid footprint in the state of Texas. So yes, I agree with that particular Get It Gang video idea, and I think they made a big mistake by not trying to bring in BYU and TCU. You would have locked in the Holy War with Utah and BYU, and then your great Texas footprint with a good brand in TCU. Remember, even though TCU got obliterated by Georgia in the national championship, they still made the playoffs. The Pac-12 would have made the playoffs this year. I'll even throw this in here. What if the Pac-12 brings in BYU and TCU and they can negotiate such a TV deal that USC and UCLA don't even leave? What if bringing in BYU and TCU would have guaranteed that the Pac-12 would exist for the foreseeable future? That's how big that decision could have been. Finally, this is actually a comment from a live show that Peek Around the Corner did. By the way, if you haven't checked out that YouTube channel, you really need to because he has some great videos over there. So one of the comments over there as I was watching a live show was from a viewer named James. James said, update, a deal is expected before the end of March. Apple TV Plus, Amazon Prime Video, and ESPN are all in the mix, with the majority of the games expected streamed. But things are fluid and might change. So yes, I think that's a real possibility, but at the same time, I think the Pac-12 teams, that's what they're mad at. They don't want to be mostly streamed, even if it is a little bit more money. They want the exposure. Now, when he says Apple TV Plus, Amazon Prime Video, and ESPN are all in the mix, maybe he's talking about all 3 of them are coming in together to do a decent TV deal for the Pac-12. Maybe just 2 of those are in together to try to get a TV deal for the Pac-12. I don't know. But yes, they do need to get a TV deal. George Kliavkoff needs to cut off all this negativity and say something positive for the Pac-12. Because here's the bottom line. Every day that passes by that there's nothing, no announcement from the Pac-12 is just another day that people are going to speculate. Like myself, I admit it, I speculate a lot. But I'm going by all the reports that I'm seeing, and none of the reports are from the Pac-12. other than a 4-word tweet from the Utah athletic director, and we heard from the Arizona State athletic director about a couple weeks ago saying he's not really keen on going to the Big 12. But overall, we've heard nothing from George Kliavkoff. So these university presidents, athletic directors, are saying what they need to say, but it really doesn't mean much. Like I said in that video that I made about plausible deniability, whenever they're looking at coaches, players, and joining a different conference, usually these athletic directors and presidents use third parties. That way they can say, I had nothing to do with it. I knew nothing. So y'all let me know in the comment section. Number one, what do you think that tweet by Mike Harlon, Utah athletic director, actually meant? Give me your interpretation. Number two, do you think the Pac-12 will come up with a TV deal and everybody stays? Or number three, do you think that these teams are just waiting till after the big dance for the Big 12 and then in April for the Big 10 to bolt? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.